Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the use of constellations in date selection. Now I've already talked about the black rabbit, the yellow and black belt, and the dong day properties and how to get them. The day officer is very easy to find, and I will have another video about that describes it in a little bit more detail of what you might want to look for specific uses, but that'll come in a week or so. But anyway, there are constellations also associated with the day. And these constellations can have an effect for certain actions. They don't necessarily modify the quality of the day, but it tells you what that day is good for. Now, there are 28 constellations and they have a 28-day repeat. They never change their order. It just repeats time and time again. So once you know a single date, you will actually know them all. And you just have to set up basically an Excel file to do this for you. It's actually very, very easy. Now, just to give you some dates, on February 8th of 2024, this is the first appearance in the Wood Dragon year where we have the constellation of Horn. And that's the first one, and I'm going to show you the order in just a second. And if you wanted to check, May 5th, which is the start of the snake month, the constellation is House. Not that this makes a big deal of difference, I just picked two dates. Now I do this through a simple Excel file to be able to know what today's date is. Now, different practitioners often call the constellations by different names in English, but the Chinese is the same. Now, the Chinese I'm going to show you is sort of the simplified version. There's usually 2 or 3 characters associated with the constellation, but there's one main character, and that's the one I'm showing you. So we start out with number 1. It's the horn. This is the Chinese character that's used. This is good for a lot of things except burial, but these are the things that it's best for marriages, business, travel, and groundbreaking. And this means if you're starting a building from scratch, this is the day that you dig into the ground to lay the foundation. Second one is neck. It's basically not really good for anything, but it's particularly bad for wealth-related activities. So that's buying and selling assets, perhaps signing a contract that has to do with you earning money, things like this. The number 3 is root. Now this one I don't even understand how to do properly, so I just avoid using this date for anything important because it needs special analysis. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And I don't fully understand how to do this. Now, number 4 is house. And this is just the name they give. It's good for marriage, travel, prayers, and burials, but it's not good for financial matters. And this would include especially signing contracts for agreeing to do something for a certain amount of money. But that also includes buying and selling assets, anything like this, anything to do with changes in your money. And so basically, this is not a day when you would ask for a raise because you're not very likely to get it, regardless of how good the day might be. Maybe you can overcome it, but in general, you can find another better day for it. So the 5th one is basically only really good for travel, but it's not very good. In fact, you should avoid legal or wealth-related activities. So that is, again, buying and selling assets. This would be deciding to sue somebody or actually going to a lawyer to work up the papers to sue somebody. So this is not a good day to do that. The number 6 is tail. It's good for many, many things. It's actually good for almost everything. And basically, you can do anything on this day. It's very good. Now, it doesn't necessarily list groundbreaking, but certainly you could do groundbreaking this then too, because it doesn't say that's a bad thing. However, this day is particularly good for groundbreaking. Number 7, basket. This is good for starting renovations. That's already something in your home. This is usually an interior renovation, but it could be a new addition too. That would be another renovation. It's good for collecting money from people who owe you money, and it's good for feng shui activities. And basically, it's nothing is to really be avoided. It's a pretty good day. But these are the things that it's particularly noted to be really good for. So number 8 is Dipper. It is good for business activities and feng shui activities, but it's not really good to start a new business. You can run a business. Um, you could even probably introduce new products, although that might not be the greatest idea of this day, but you definitely don't want to start a new business. The number 9 is the ox. It's really not good for much of anything, and so you want to avoid anything important. Doesn't mean you just sit at home and do nothing. It just means that you need to not start something new, not do anything that will have long-term implications in terms of your finances or your relationships. So, you know, you just don't want to have that serious conversation with your boyfriend or girlfriend on this particular day. That could be considered important. So but you can do your normal amount of work, do your regular stuff. It is fine. Now, number 10 is woman. It is quite good for academic work or learning something, education. But basically, anything else important isn't very good. So things like marriage and travel and burial, which was, of course, a real big thing years and years ago. Not such a big thing today, but because burial was supposed to tell you your grandchildren's future, how good their life would be. I mean, that's how feng shui actually started. Now, number 11 is empty. It's basically not a good day for anything, but it's particularly bad for starting anything new. So don't introduce a new product. Don't start a new business. Don't start a new project. Just keep working on what you're already doing, and you'll be fine. Number 12 is the best thing for the danger day is debt collection. And basically anything else that's important that could change your life, you should avoid. Number 13 is camp. It's good for starting a business, that is, a new business, that is. It's good for renovations. It's good for marriage, but pretty much not anything else. Number 14 is wall. It's good for business activities, and that could be basically anything to do with business. Usually not starting a new business, but it doesn't say you can't, so it would be okay. This seems a little strange, but southward travel is not advised. Now, if you have to travel southward from your house to your work, that's something you do every day. It's still okay. You can do it, maybe be a little more careful than normal. Number 15 is legs. This is often called different things by different people. This is one that's really often given a different name in English, but it's good for travel and it's good for renovations. But everything else, not so good. Now, the number 16 is bond, and it's anything important is good, and you don't have to avoid anything. It's a very good day. Stomach is good for public events like marriages, burials, which were usually quite public back then. Um, but this could be things like political rallies or a video where you would introduce a new product of yours, something like this. And of course, you would probably be a lot bigger than like my business, but something where you have a real public audience. And but anything else important isn't so great. Now the 18 is the Pleiades. Basically, it's not a very good thing, so nothing is particularly good to do this day. And basically, avoid anything important. You can keep doing your day-to-day activities, totally fine. Just don't start anything new or do anything that can have a long-term effect on your life. So number 19 is net. It's good for marriage and land-related activities. That would be like buying or selling land, perhaps uh, changing the purpose of what you're using the land for, that kind of thing. And basically anything else important you should avoid. Number 20 is the beak. It's not good for really anything, and it's particularly bad for anything new. The reference, it's good for most things except for marriage and burials. So it's a pretty good day. Number 22 is well. It's good for groundbreaking and construction. So that's a pretty interesting one. Now, it is also said it's good for micro feng shui, which would be small adjustments in perhaps the positioning of the furniture in your house. So those are about the only small adjustments I can think of. But basically, anything else important is not a good idea. And 23 is ghost, and it is good for burials, but basically nothing else. Of course, you can, again, do anything that you normally do. It's totally fine. It's just you don't do something important. That is going to change your life. Number 24 is willow. It's not a very good thing, but in particular, it's really bad for feng shui activities. So this is one that you should really look at. Of course, if you have a fantastic day that has everything else is really good, I wouldn't be terribly worried about willow because this is just one of many things. And you always have to make that balance between all the different types of day properties. And this is the constellation is another day property. Now 25 is star. It's good for marriages and commercial activities. Maybe this is really a good day to like sign a big contract for with somebody for your company to provide something to them, or maybe you're buying something from someone. That's a kind of good thing, but it's not good for burials. Now 26 is extend. It's good for wealth-related activities, specifically good for that. And basically, you don't have to avoid anything. It's good for almost everything. The 27 wings, it sounds like a great thing, but it's really not a good day. And so you want to avoid anything important. And 28, it's good for most things except northward travel. And again, if you have to travel northward to or from work, just be a little more careful on these days. This is something you normally do, so that's not a big deal. It's choosing to do this, travel northward to a new location that you don't normally go to. That is when this becomes important. Now you will notice there are 4 groups of these. If you were paying attention, you will see that those are named after the 4 types of mountains in the most classical type of Sanhe feng shui, where where they're placing a temple, that you have those 4 mountains in the right place. Well, that's where this kind of comes from. It doesn't really mean anything. Now, the description of what's good and what to avoid actually comes from fengshui.com. So when you are looking for a date for a specific activity, like groundbreaking, let's say, you should pay attention to the constellation and then look for the dates that also have as many of these things being good as possible. Now, if it is, let's say, for groundbreaking, you want a good Donggong day. If it's something new, you want a good Donggong day property. And you want to get as many of these other things, the day officer, black rabbit, and yellow and black belt, to be as positive as possible. It's very hard to find a perfect date. But as long as you get a couple key things right, you should be okay. Now, this does help refine your search by looking for these other things, but it also leads to fewer good days, obviously. But those good days are much better days than average. So it's worth looking into. So here's the example. If you want to do groundbreaking for a new house, a horn or a well day is the very best days. There's a couple other good days that are there too. The ones that are good for construction, even ones that are good for renovation aren't terribly bad. But you should have at least a good Donggong day property. And there are 5 different levels, so we're talking about the 2 best ones. But if it also has a good day officer, a good black rabbit, and a good yellow and black belt property, so much the better. But those last 3 here are not absolutely necessary, because you may not be able to, maybe there's only 1 day a year, maybe not even 1 day a year that meets all these criteria. So you have to pick the best day that you can within a reasonable time frame. Now, one of the most difficult ones to do date selection for is a date to marry. Now, if you do it in the traditional sense, you have to actually have the birth dates of the parents also. It is crazy how many restrictions there are to find like a very good date to marry. I didn't use this, but then again, we have a base sitting combo 10 in our house, and it's activated, which is good for relationships and health. So it didn't really matter what day we got married. I mean, we chose the date based on the start of the year when we could make a change well, actually, it was when my health insurance ended, and I switched to my husband's, and it was a date when the justice of the peace was available to marry people. So it's pretty simple. And like I said, our house is really conducive to good relationships, so it really didn't make any difference for us. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope this was informative, and please feel free to either email me here or leave a comment if you have any questions. Thank you again for watching.